Well, we'll get going. I'll first say thanks for coming to the new roundtable, the newest edition, the Rocky Mountain Blizzard.
It's winter.
It is winter.
Ooh, baby, it's cold outside.
So for those who don't know, I'm Spencer Prusi. I own West End Ski and Trail, and I've been a fan of the Blizzard since we started carrying Rocky Mountain, but this newest iteration with the carbon frame is pretty special, and we'll talk about why that's special and each of our riding experiences with the Blizzard. So, James, you want to introduce yourself?
I'm James Morrow, and I'm just a bike rider, and I'm going to give you some layman's terms and feedback on.
You should plug your business.
Plug that Jimmy Sackman Morrow Pack.
Yeah, Morrow Packs. Custom packs.
Come to a bike near you.
They're pretty awesome.
Yeah, they work. They hold stuff.
They do. They're great.
Pretty good.
They're awesome. Beautiful too.
Thanks.
Brent?
Yep. Oh yeah, Brent Pontius, and been riding bikes for a long time.
What's your background in that?
So background, started riding to get anywhere when I was like 15, right? And then started racing about the same time, cross country racing. And then lived out west for a while. Had a stint, worked for a bike company out there making carbon bike components and big composites, which was a great deal.
Yeah.
For about 4 years. Well, no longer affiliated, but I still ride the product because I like it.
Heavy makes good stuff.
Yes, they do. And started riding snow before I had a fat bike, 2013, I think. Just started riding on frozen trails in the winter, and it was like eye-opening. And then fat bikes just opened it up. And so riding fat bikes probably since 2014, 2015. Racing fat bikes, using them to venture around, explore new areas, riding groomed single track, national forest trails that are packed by snowshoes, like all that stuff. It just opens up a whole new world
It really does.
for biking and just new opportunities, and it's so fun to get out there in the winter.
Yeah.
It's surreal. So
Awesome. Mark?
Mark Hall, work at West End Ski and Trail, and I've owned a fat bike for quite a while now, and I like to get outside and ride that fat bike, go to bed.
Yeah. Well, we have a good area for it, right? For, who
Yeah,
has
it's
it?
perfect for that. And, north of Ishpeming is a great spot. It's not necessarily trail riding out there, but it's a lot of two-track roads to get kind of like lost on.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of stuff I really like to do on my Blizzard.
Yeah. Well, and I think when fat bike started, we didn't have grooming for trails. So they were either ridden in, snow-packed in with snowshoes, or you were trying to ride stuff. We were running really low pressures. I remember as low as 1 PSI, trying to stay on top of the snow. And the bikes have changed drastically from the first iteration. I had 2012, one of the original fat bikes. It was fun. And what I actually liked about it, I was into like going fast. I had XC bikes. I wasn't big into trail riding at that time. It was all about how fast could I go. Is that the fat bike gave me a little bit of a break from that.
the pressure of it,
Yeah,
personal pressure.
exactly. Like it was more like akin to riding a big wheel as a kid. You just got on it and smiled and had a ton of fun.
Yeah.
The downside of those bikes is they were super heavy. It was over 40 pounds. And there wasn't a lot of tire choices for them. There wasn't a lot of great components for them. They hadn't figured out some of the angles for chain line. So it's been really fun to see these bikes evolving. And as we're getting this amazing grooming on trails where it's as good as dirt sometimes for traction, you can now stand up and pedal hard up a hill. And to have bikes that are capable of trail riding in the winter now, I think is really a cool thing. And that's where the Blizzard comes in. That's where it really shines. It's a trail bike with balloon tires.
Yeah, that's what got me. I mean, I just go on looks. I don't know much about numbers, but like just looking at it, I was like, well, that looks like a mountain bike more than just a fat bike, to sit on. Where others might be like more of that touring or upright kind of feel, but yeah, that thing just looked a little bit more rowdy than all the rest.
Yeah.
I was like, well, it's got the steep set tube angle, so I guess that's gonna fit me best. And it does, like, it's just instantly started handling better in the corners and more confident, you know, breaking loose into slides and stuff. It just was a little bit more stable and, yeah, it's been a really good bike.
Yeah, going into slides, in wintertime, in the beginning, I'm always a little, like, hesitant to get into that mode of drifting a bike around stuff.
Every year it's hard. It's hard to know. Like even
like,
this year
where
at
am I
the
gonna
fresh
go?
snow, I've been really tentative. Like
Yeah.
until I actually
Yeah.
understand it again. So
Right.
it's interesting.
And then I transition back, I get to dirt, and in the beginning, when it's still loose out or whatever, you're doing some of that, and as traction gets better and better, I'm not sliding a bike around, so then I get back to winter, and it's hard
Yeah.
to do.
Well, yeah, like you said, I mean, sometimes it turns into almost better than dirt, like sticky, grippy dirt out there. It's just wild some days.
Yep. And then you get my favorite season, which is crust riding.
Yep.
Yeah.
You get those days in April, usually, where it's
Leaving
hot.
corn.
Yeah, it's in
Yeah.
the 50s and melting, and then drops below freezing overnight, and you get this golden hour. Sometimes it's more of riding on top of the crust, and you can ride anywhere in the woods. It doesn't matter. You're climbing stuff, descending stuff you normally wouldn't in the winter. You're not even on trails.
Yeah, and I think that for fat bikes, like that is where it's amazing, right? We kind of alluded to it earlier. For the crust season last year was amazing.
We had
Amazing.
days of
I took days off work because it would last all through the day.
Yes.
Through the night, all through the day, and it was so solid and so reliability. The crust was, with 3 feet of snow on the ground, you could go in the woods and access
Yeah, no logs.
places you
no-
can't access at any other time. Snowshoes, skis, summertime hiking, running, like all that simply isn't accessible.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I took off time from work. I'm like, I can't miss this. And even Emily, my wife, she was excited to get out and
Yeah.
explore and really enjoyed it on her fat bike. And to me, that's the beauty of the fat bike. There's fat bike racing, which is another thing, which is fun and different. But it's just that adventure aspect. Like, the conditions change. There's never really, especially here where the grooming is really good and the trails are groomed within 24 hours after a huge snowfall.
Right.
There really are very few days when there isn't some very unique, very special riding conditions that are really enjoyable, kind of present you with something new.
Right.
And that's where the fat bikes are amazing.
Yeah.
So much fun.
Yeah, it's probably the most freedom
Yeah.
I find on a bike.
Mhm.
Whether, bike packing, any of these other things, you have these pre-planned routes. But I've been so lost crust riding that I've had to pull out trail forks.
imagine.
And,
Oh,
okay, the trail's over there, and then beeline for to get back.
I can see me getting in trouble with that, just running up in the bottom of every hole in the area.
Yeah, it's
Just wanna
pretty
keep
incredible.
going down.
And then you get to the spring where all that snow is melted and you see some of the things you've ridden and you're like, oh, there's a
Yeah.
big tree
Yeah.
that's off the ground this far.
Yeah.
And like we were over that. It's pretty neat.
amazing. Yep.
So let's talk about what makes the Blizzard special. Let's talk about some of the pros that we've all experienced
Yeah.
on them. You three own Blizzards. I have a demo Blizzard, so I've spent a fair amount of time on it. So, James, for you, what makes this bike stand out? What do you really enjoy about the Blizzard?
Well, like I said, and I don't know if it's the head tube angle or just the geometry. I mean, it just feels more of a mountain bike when I'm in the single track. Like I said before, like the Farley was a very comfortable bike, and super capable. But I could sit on it a long time, but it just wasn't like, I was on the brakes a little bit more when it got a little bit sketchy, and like this thing just opened it up. It went to where my background is mountain biking, and it just kind of made that feel a little bit more alive,
Made it feel more like your trail bike.
Right, yeah. And I did notice that, like to be open, that I could sit on the Farley a little bit longer,
Sure.
Doing like Polar Roll EX and stuff. Then I did the following year on the Blizzard, and I was like, I'm having a little bit more fun, but it's just a little bit more effort. once you get up to like 30, 40 miles in a ride or something. But I was probably having more fun, than the other guys
Sure.
on the descents and everything
Yeah,
else.
and some of that is, changing a stem or changing a handlebar
Sure.
or whatever.
And that's what I don't do. Like, I don't really look into that much. It's like, I get something that feels right and it's fun to ride, and it's like, I'll just leave it alone. And, I'm sure there's a bunch that I can get into and
Well, there's
dialing
wormholes.
everything.
There's
There's
wormholes.
definitely, and it's interesting you say that because something about this one is the seat angles, 74, which doesn't sound steep, but it's a rigid bike, right?
Right.
So a lot of the trail bikes now are going 76, 77.
Yep.
They sag when you climb. Compared to, and this is going to be a fit specific thing to the person, compared to the bikes I've had before that are 73, I have really long legs and 34-inch inseam, so my seat height's really high. And when you do that, you notice like a lot of them have the seat tube angle, and then it kind of, as you go higher, it doesn't intersect with the bottom bracket necessarily. It ends
Right.
up, as you go higher seat, it puts you back. And what I found for my fit and the Blizzard is far more comfortable over long distances. Because before I was up here and way back. And what that did was really make me kind of crunched
Yeah.
over at the hip, like my hip angle's really tight. So I found the Blizzard on long distance really comfortable.
Nice.
Now I haven't raced it yet. So, but I haven't observed it to be slower, so I can't really speak to that.
Right.
Yeah, so with that C-tube angle thing, I like that you made the point that hardtails are going to have a slacker C-tube than full suspension bikes because they are squatting and it changes your effective C-tube angle
Right.
when they squat
A
down.
full suspension is, you have to
Right.
compensate.
Correct. And, there's C-tube angle and effective C-tube angle. So like, this is the C-tube angle and effective is where the bottom bracket goes straight up to there.
Yep.
So you,
Two or three there.
yep, so you have two different angles really going on in that
Yep.
C-tube. But I think what surprised me about the Blizzard is with the slack head angle, I didn't anticipate its climbing to be as efficient as it is. I think that was one of the ones coming off of my Rocky Mountain Suzy Q, which is a very fast, like cross-country style
Yep.
bike. It climbs extremely well. I thought the Blizzard was going to feel a little bit more lethargic, and it didn't. And I think because of that slightly steeper C-tube angle, it's getting you over that bottom bracket a little bit more, where like on those 73-degree, especially like for yourself, that 73-degree C-tube angle, you might have felt almost like you were pedaling in front of you somewhat.
Yep.
Versus underneath you.
Yeah.
And so that attributed to a lot of good efficiency for me when climbing. And then the slack head angle of 66 degrees, which is, that's slacker than some enduro bikes out there.
It's cool.
And that is, when you go downhill with this thing, it feels like a trail
Yeah,
bike.
it does.
And I got back on my Suzy Q and did the same loop. And I got to one of the trails we go fast down, which is fence line,
Mhm.
and I didn't feel anywhere near as confident. Exact same conditions.
Mhm.
And this bike just gave me so much more confidence
Yeah.
in the descending, and I didn't feel like I suffered in the climbing.
There are two specific places I've noticed that it's the most benefit. It seems as though because it's farther out and it's less, you have less weight on it potentially. When it does slide, it gives you more time to react and catch it than
Yeah.
more traditional steeper
Yeah.
head tube that's tucked under does.
That's where I would get a little kink, like a couple
Yeah.
things, like, oh, where that one's like, whatever.
Yeah, like
you
it
just kinda
goes
let
and you're
go.
like, oh, okay, I got this.
Yeah.
You just kind of
Yep.
like reset, which was really awesome. And the other, this is better than any other bike I've ridden. Trail bike, cross-country bike, I haven't ridden downhill bike ever. Is on like steep rollovers with really sharp transitions on the top and the bottom. There was a crust day at Harlow, north of Marquette. And there were things that I kind of point
Like
over and
getting
be
G out
like,
kinda stuff.
yeah, like I was like,
Yeah.
this is really going to be borderline catching and pitching over.
Right.
And it's just,
Yeah.
like it was nothing.
Yeah,
and
it was
that-
like a chance.
so those are the two specific areas where like I really like that head
Yeah.
angle, or the general overall geometry, and I think it's probably the head angle.
Yeah. That's what I guess found it most too, is, the sliding, getting loose in the corners,
Mhm.
and being more confident, and then, like I said before, coming down, rambling man last winter, and the grooming gets a little bit tight, and the whoops towards the bottom get real tight and tall, and it's just super cool. Yeah, you just kind of, it sucks up into you really well, and it's cool.
Yeah, so it adds a element of stability and confidence building.
Certainly.
It's like a confidence party.
Right? Confidence party. Yeah, Mark, where do you really?
Well, it was the first time I've been on a tire that size, so 27.5 by 4.5s. And coming from a steel bike with 26ers, this bike, I didn't think it was going to be as nimble and playful as it, because it's kind of a tank when you look at it. You're like, this is a big bike.
Right.
And you stand over it.
Those are big tires.
Yeah, you stand over it and get into a position on trail on those real sweet days where it's like 0 degrees, it's super crisp and just hard outside.
Yeah.
And Ramba is like just a ribbon, of just a roller coaster out there on the really good days. And that bike just handled those things. It was so smooth. You can actually grind it into the corners and like really get after it. Stand up and pedal on it. The thing, it just reacts to like everything you input into the bike. It handles really well. And I ride the aluminum one.
Right.
With the carbon fork. So coming from a steel bike to that really, really helped me out a lot. I've been on the carbon a little bit, and I do have to say I do like the weight savings of the carbon. It's a little snappier too than the aluminum, obviously.
Yeah, carbon material gives you different advantages.
Sure. Yeah. But as far as like long distance riding, like I like to do on 2-track roads and doing adventure and stuff, pack a lot of gear onto this thing, and it's so stable on like rough terrain, like where ATVs and snowmobiles had roughed up the road or the trail. The larger tires and just the geometry allows you to handle that hard packed icy chunk that sometimes you could just like slide around or fall over really easy on. It works really well for all that stuff. So winter bike packing, I would say, like that bike just absolutely rules.
Yeah, it's a good all-around fat bike.
Yeah.
There's fat bikes out there designed for cargo carrying. There's fat bikes designed for just tootling along. There's fat bikes designed for racing. And I haven't been on a fat bike that's as well-rounded as this.
I agree.
The Suzy Q, I think, is a great bike. I do kind of wish they still made it from like a go fast type of
Q
bike.
factor sort of.
Yeah, Q factor.
Yep. I mean, that's a fact.
But I have more fun on the Blizzard than I do even on my Suzy Q. And I think that's...
Do you have the fork mounts and stuff on that one? Or?
On the Suzy Q, yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty nice. I didn't have that before.
Yep, and that's one of the cool things is like if you want to get into adventure biking, bike packing, or if you're doing some of those long races, there's a Polar Roll Ultra coming up.
Yep.
Having a spot to put extra gear is a really good option.
Huge.
So there's a lot of great points about the Blizzard. We've all spent enough time on them to know what we might think needs improvement, if anything. And there's a few things that I'm going to touch base on, and I don't know what you guys might feel the same way on some of the stuff. You might have different things. I think they're spec'd well even at their entry-level build, the one behind you. That's still a 12-speed.
Yep.
So spec is really nice on them. But I think things that could have been done a little bit different is the Q factor.
Yep.
For those who don't know, Q factor is how wide apart your feet are when pedaling. So narrow Q factor, wide Q factor. And both Brent and I have spent time narrowing the Q factor on the Suzy, on the Blizzards. Brent's is right there, looking pretty fancy.
Big tires.
Big
Trying them out.
Big tires.
They're pretty cool.
So far. So we've both narrowed the Q factor on our Blizzards to make that bike a little more friendly on our knees, and I think it adds an element of efficiency.
Yeah, and I'm not super sensitive to Q factor either, but when you get up to that wide Q factor, I prefer it a little narrower, just for the just loading the pedals and such. So that said, it can be narrow, right?
It can be, yeah.
Yep.
Yep, so there is some work to be done. We can change out a crank and a bottom bracket, and
Yep.
we can narrow the Q factor, and it does change the riding quite a bit. Though, when we narrow the Q factor, I found
Yep.
this braze-on.
Yep.
I was hitting that with my calf, and it didn't hurt, it didn't cause a problem, but putting a plug in there of some type is good. So I think, for me, I think a little narrower Q factor, which is fixable, and then moving that mount up here, or narrowing those stays some. Now, if you're running 5-inch tires like Brent, you don't have a whole lot more room
I think
to narrow the stays.
I think it could. I think they could be scalloped in a little bit on just the seat stays, right?
Yeah.
They could tuck in, because I've got just a little heel rub on mine, but I put protective tape, replaced this with a flush mount bolt,
Yep.
and that resolved most of the issue. So it's really not a big issue unless you really ride duck foot and want the narrower Q factor.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah, I would say they're more nitpicky
right.
complaints than anything. Because
Most people don't notice
when
that.
riding the
That's
bike,
me.
I don't feel it. I don't.
I just pedal it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good thing I'm bow-legged, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, I
Does
mean,
that go into effect?
I think it's just small nitpicky stuff because nothing's perfect, right?
Right.
That's cool, though, that you can adjust it. I mean, it isn't maxed out
That's-
where the Q
Yep.
factor is.
Right.
What did you say you came in?
So Q factor mine is at 203. So it's right now it's a Next SL crank with the 160.
You,
bottom
what did you
bracket.
say, you came in like 20 mil or something on it, or?
Yeah, 20 mil total from
Yeah.
old stock.
Wow.
And that's just changing.
That's cool.
Changing chain ring, crank and bottom bracket spindle.
Yep.
Out gets you down
That's
to
quite a bit. I mean,
pretty
that's
much
a
as
bunch.
narrow as you can go on any current fat bike other than the Suzy Q.
Right.
But any current fat bike that uses the more standard rear hub, which is a 197.
Yeah,
Nothing really goes narrower than that. Maybe the Otso. Maybe.
yeah, that's cool.
I think it does now.
It uses
but
They have
yeah,
that capability.
Yeah, but they're also, yeah, I'd have to look.
But then
and
there's, to me, that's the balance of that. What this bike does really well is it balances that tire clearance. It's just packaged really well. Like it balances the tire clearance and available width for tires with the crank
Yeah.
clearance. And it does it really well. Like it's like within millimeters of exactly where it needs to be.
Yeah. that's
And I
cool.
think that's what, it's just executed very well.
I agree. And I think the fact that we can run as narrow of a Q factor as we are, and with clearances of what, 2.5 mils
2.5 millimeters. Yeah.
between the
On the non-drive
crank
there?
arm and on both, it's
Yeah,
actually,
right.
it's equal, which is
Yeah.
great. So 2.5 millimeters with almost any frame flex, you're going to be clipping that. But we're not getting that. We're
Right.
not getting it at all. It's a really stiff rear triangle.
Yep.
So they've done a great job with it in that. Any negatives?
No.
That was quick.
Pops wheelie's really good.
It's really good,
It's
Adam.
really good.
Yeah.
That's all I really care about. I've actually noticed, like, so I've done a few cyclocross races, and the first time I raced this year with a fat bike was with that, and it's the fastest. Like, generally you're with the same people, or you're following the same people. Every race that you're at, the same people are there, and you typically have that same gap on those people every race. And that was the fastest race I've ever had, was on my fat bike, not my drop bar bike. And actually, like, passed the dude I've been chasing since I ever raced cyclocross, and you get kind of mad. Sorry, JJ. But it was a super fast bike, and obviously super capable on the sand and the beach and everything, and climbing. It's like,
Yeah.
like we were saying before, it just kind of checks all the boxes
It
of.
really does.
I think
It,
it's
it can get down like in the single track, it can jump, you can get rowdy, wheelie, race it.
That's worth talking about, right? Like a little more, because you raced it
Right.
and did equal to or better than you've done before.
Better. It
was hands down better.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
On a fat bike, yeah.
Yeah, and that's a lot of, and fat bikes have a reputation, right? They're slow and
Right.
cumbersome.
Right.
And I don't it might be well earned from back when they had less quality tires. That's important, and I think, so a lot of people ask me, like, I'm thinking about getting a fat bike, what should I look for, what should I get? I'm always like, tubeless tires and the ability to stud them.
Yes.
It comes with both, right? So,
Yes.
and that's really important, and I think if you, like, to me, that's a big thing, because when I ride a fat bike with tubeless tires, I haven't observed a speed difference. It's a significant speed difference between that and a trail biker, and so
I would agree.
they're not as slow as everybody
No.
perceives them to be.
I think you're right though about the speed on that, and I just once you get it there, just the tire circumference just takes over
Yeah.
sometimes too, and you're just like, this thing is just
rolling.
I'm like not on the brakes at all, and it just wants to roll and roll and roll, and it's crazy.
And I think some of the problem with other fat bikes with different head angles, even with the same tires, it creates an auto steer. So they're not, as they get up to speed, they're not as easy to turn. You really got to lean them in.
And then they kind of want to catch and turn in, right?
Yeah. And we were on a Wednesday night ride, and we switched bikes, and I was on your single speed fat bike, and I had a real heck of a time turning that bike in, and I haven't had a problem turning this bike in.
That's one thing I think is it is not as sensitive to tire self-steer as a steeper head angle is.
Right.
I noticed it instantly on this. I think my old bike had a 69 degree head tube angle. This is 66, and it's much more muted. Same tires, same wheel. I transferred all the parts over from my old bike onto this one.
Right.
And it doesn't demonstrate that self-steer.
Yeah.
It doesn't have it the same way that
It doesn't have that even slow speed, like kink kind of feel.
Yeah,
where you get, if you come over something, you're at the top, it wants to just fold on you or something. I haven't gathered, maybe that's because of the tire size with that slack or something, but yeah.
I think it has to do a lot with the geometry, because we've run different tires on these bikes, and even on certain fat bike tires, I would feel an auto steer. And when I had that same tire on this bike, I didn't get it near as bad as I did on a steeper head angle. So that's been an amazing thing. And I think that's an important thing to mention, is that we've all ridden these in dirt, and it doesn't feel like a bad bike. If somebody wants one bike to ride everything, get a Blizzard.
If you have any intention of riding in winter, fat bike is the one to get. The Blizzard is really good because it's so good in the summer as well.
Put a front suspension fork on it, run a 4.0 tire or something if you want, like Maxxis 3.8, something like that, and you can run you can almost, I think a Fox 34 can even accommodate that. So
just need to get a special wheel for it.
You do. For it. Yes, different wheel set for that. But man,
Tim has a plus size wheel set for his Blizzard, and he rides that in the summertime.
Yeah,
and absolutely loves it. He said it has with that tire size difference. He said he does feel a little bit of the flex in the back, but it's not terrible.
He might be feeling the wheel itself flexing in the back.
Could be.
Because of that transfer.
So
he loves doing that.
Did you have any negatives? No, they've done a great job with this.
Well, another positive too.
Yeah.
Before I got that, I was like, I wanted another hardtail. Like, I got my full suspension, and I'm like, I want to get back to a hardtail feel. Like, I want to feel the trail.
Yeah.
I'm just bombing down trails now. Like, I want to read trails and get back to like that mountain biking feel. And I don't need a hardtail anymore. I'm like, well, there it is.
There it is.
I had a hardtail. I found my fat bike redundant.
Yeah. Right.
I just need the fat bike.
Yep, and it totally works for everything.
I'm still a weirdo and run a hardtail single speed. But,
yeah. It's like 9.5 pounds or something.
It's what do you like? So I guess who would this bike be for?
Can we talk about the color a bit?
Sure. Yeah. Let's talk about color.
Let's talk about the color. Because last year the bike came out, I saw it in pictures, and I'm like, I don't know. And that was the watermelon, watermelon pistachio.
Yeah.
And So in picture, I'm like, I'm not too excited. Actually, got it in person. I'm like, actually looks pretty good.
Yeah.
This model,
Yeah.
this year,
Yeah.
this looks really good.
I know. The one back there behind you,
Yeah.
it's a nice paint scheme.
Yep.
I think they've done a good job with it. It looks good, but it's not like wow.
Yeah.
That was fun.
That's wow.
Yeah.
This frame color makes me want to buy this bike, and I have no need to buy another bike.
And that's not going to show in pictures either, but this looks really good.
It is a
Yeah, it's gotta get
fantastic
this
It's
color.
like matte with like a gloss maple leaf
Yeah.
and then a
It's like that bronzy,
pewter?
if you look at it one way.
Pewter,
it almost
yeah,
looks
metallic
red
pewter.
It's a
little bit
metallic
that way.
for
Yeah.
sure.
It's
Yeah, that's a
cool.
beautiful looking bike. The downside is we're so limited on how many Blizzard
Yeah.
C50s we are going to be
Yeah.
able to get. We're getting everything we can, but yeah, we're limited. And even on the C30. But, price point on these bikes. Now, from last year, it had gone up a little bit, but when we compare these to bikes on the market, other fat bikes on the market, when you look at, what this is going to compare against, this is $37.99. It has a DT Swiss rear hub, cake eater tires, which are studdable, and a great rolling tire. XT Shimano shifting components, and a dropper post. Now, it's a Rocky Mountain branded dropper post, and they're not as smooth actuating as some of the other dropper posts out there, but it is functional, and it works great even in the winter.
It's
That's the best dropper post out of all my bikes.
So, like,
It works really, in the winter especially, it just, bang.
it works,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Don't get into that sticky, kind of jamming up.
at $37.99, that's a really great bike with a dropper post. At $31.99, still has 12-speed Shimano, as I touched on earlier, hydraulic brakes, dropper compatible, but it's the same tires, same rims
Yep.
with a Sunringley hub. So a little bit different in the hub, a little bit different in the drivetrain, no dropper post, but still the same geometry, the same frame with a different color.
Yep.
And I think that's the important thing is at $31.99, that bike is phenomenal.
Yeah,
Yes, it is.
it's a good budget bike. It's awesome.
And it's lower priced than a lot of other ones that you'll see out there that are carbon
Yeah.
and spec'd
Yeah.
as good or better.
But to offer the same frame in two different color schemes just kind of blows my mind this year.
Oh yeah, that one was the same for
Same for
both.
both models.
Yeah,
Last year.
yeah.
It's great.
Yep. So
Pistachio watermelon in the snow though. Hey, with a white backdrop.
It does look good on the way back.
It is beautiful.
Yeah.
in that, yes.
I have a suggestion for Rocky is to come out with the old classic Blizzard paint scheme with the candy apple red
Oh, man.
and the gloss white that they had back.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
2001.
Just Christmassy.
That
That's
was
Christmas.
To resurrect that would be pretty cool.
That'd be pretty
Mhm.
cool.
Because the Blizzard used to, I think, was their hardtail race bike back.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Interesting. Huh. Yeah, back in the day. So, who is this bike for? Well, if you're looking for a fat bike and you want it to be fun, fast, good at all the stuff, is there anything it's not good at, right? Like, so, I don't know. Really, anybody who wants a fat bike,
I don't know. Yeah, mountain bike background for me. I mean, that's kind of where I came from, and it
Yeah.
fits me perfect for fat biking.
yep.
Yeah, I don't think it really falls short anywhere. For me, I'll race mine this winter and see how it is. I don't really have any concerns, given the riding I've done
Yeah.
on it. Just kind of get to be tested. It's just solid. So who's it for? I think somebody who is looking for a second bike for winter riding, whose primary focus will be just riding all varied terrain. Or even somebody who is looking for a single bike to ride all season and intends to also ride
Yeah,
in the winter.
that's true.
Summer
Yeah.
when we have
That could be
winter
a
riding.
year-round bike if you're
Yeah,
gonna
It
get one.
absolutely could
Yeah.
be. Yep.
Yeah.
Even without a suspension fork, it could be
Yeah,
the year
for sure.
round.
'Cause we talked about that. I came in, I was like, what do you think about the suspension fork? Like after riding a ramp a little bit. I'm like, I mean, you got 30, 40 mil up there right now. with the tire.
There's travel with the tire.
You know, yeah, and if you're playful enough and stuff, I wouldn't see any use for it,
Yep.
you know, unless you're getting in like big trouble on drops or stuff like that, but, yeah.
I think that's maybe is what it isn't, right? So if somebody's gonna wanna intend to charge hard in the summer on rough trails
Right.
and focus on downhill times and
Yeah,
whatnot,
maybe that's its
you'd probably be better
limitation.
served by a trail bike,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, if you're wanting a hardtail fine, look at Rocky's Growler.
Right.
A similar bike,
That was where I was leaning.
geometry with,
I haven't worried about it since.
Yep.
yeah. Yep. So it's a great all-arounder. Good for anybody looking for a second bike, fat bike. You're not gonna be disappointed.
Yeah,
Nope.
for sure.
Yeah. Cool. Any other thoughts, or?
I think I covered it.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, cool. Well, thanks for coming again, and
Yeah.
thanks for bringing yours along so we could take a
Yeah,
look at a
thanks,
little different
sweet.
setup.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
Some custom bits.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Party on.